ArieForce 1 is one of the most unique RMCs that I've ever been on, and in my opinion contrasts the popular belief that RMCs feel the same to one another. Although it's not much use of today, I will be reviewing ArieForce because it's a ride that I've been wanting to share my thoughts on regardless of if it's actually going to close forever. But with that being said, let's just get straight into it because there's a lot to talk about. Starting with the experience off-ride, specifically its presentation. It's a noticeable change from the rest of the park, and not to say that the property didn't have its own unique charm, but ArieForce was the shining star of the property. The colors popped and the structure purely dominated the skyline. It's practically the only thing that sticks out besides the go-karts. Inside the station is honestly better presented than Goliath at Six Flags Great America, an RMC that looks very similar and with the same structure design. But somehow a corporation was beat out by a family-owned business, and it's very easy to tell by how well this ride looks just how much passion was put into it. Once on ride, you drop down slightly before entering the pre-lift, and these two bunny hills actually threw me off guard because if you have a good amount of room in your seat, especially towards the front, you actually get airtime, not lurching forward on rides like Steel Vengeance. This is genuinely airtime. You're lifted out of your seat. Once you make it to the top of the lift hill, you're thrown over a drop pretty quickly. It's fun and there's airtime, but it's not the best RMC drop I've done, and it's pretty good in the back row, so it's just in general a great way to get the ride started. Then you meet the Raven Trust Dive, one of the signature elements on this attraction, and I'd compare it most to the dive loops you'd find in RMC Raptors, except it's not as strong airtime, but is more sustained, and then you whip to the right before entering a small speed hill. This element is something I find much better than the one on Steel Vengeance. It's not my favorite element in the world, but it doesn't matter since this is when the ride starts to get insane. Then you enter the Zero-G stall, and this is most comparable to Goliath again at Six Flags Great America, but I'd like to say it brings up a design theme that this ride has, unlike the rest of the RMCs I've done, and it's just how the transitions are profiled. This ride is very fluid as every element takes its transitions seamlessly, almost like a new generation Vekoma, only difference being this ride is just whippier and crazier. Next, you enter the Outer Bank, and this is one of the most sustained ejector airtime moments I've experienced on any coaster. And in terms of Outer Banks, I'd like to compare it to the second Outer Bank on Steel Vengeance, except the transition is more janky on Steel Vengeance, not in a bad way though. It's RMC jank, which is the main difference between Joe Draves and Alan Shoki in terms of their track profile. Then from one insane airtime moment to another, we reach the double up, and this is an absolute highlight on this ride. The sustained ejector airtime is most comparable to Iron Gwazi and Iron Rattler, the way they take their last final drop, and it's one of the craziest sustained moments on the entire ride. It's awesome in the back row especially. And this is where we reach the halfway point, and the ride just gets ridiculous. After having done primarily elements that are high off the ground, you enter a low to the ground heartline roll known as the arcade roll, and this is one of the best inversions I've ever done. You are absolutely whipped to the side so violently and then tossed up into a small outer bank, which is cool but nothing too crazy, and then the ride does a 180-degree turn to get back to the station. This is pretty intense. It's nothing gray out heavy, but it's nearly there. And then you practically have another arcade roll, just a little less whippy. Probably what the Maverick Heartline roll though would have been close to, since it does around the similar thing. Then you enter the Chili Dip and Quad Down, and these are practically the same element, but oh my god, is it the most intense part of the ride. The ejector, it's ejector after ejector after ejector, 5 times in a row. I thought personally it would be too much, but honestly I found it quite fun. I could see how it would be too much for some people though. Finally, you crest over one last airtime hill before leveling out into the harshest brakes in the world. If you're not stabled, you are practically in a car got rear-ended by a 15-ton truck simulator. In the back row, you are a mid-ejector airtime moment, and then you immediately stop. This ride tries to throw you off at every hill. It's something that if you somehow manage to survive without any restraint, I think it would be more impressive than winning an Olympic game 5 times in a row. In conclusion, ArieForce 1 is a world-class coaster that feels like a blend between a typical RMC and how rides like Max Force and new generation Vekomas are designed, with fluid transitions in mind. This ride is practically perfect and my second favorite RMC ever. But where I think its future is held is obviously up for question, but I think 100% this ride will be moved. It's not an old attraction or a substantially large one either, and many parks, whether it's Kings Island or Carowinds, looking for another coaster to compete in their fantastic lineup, or a park like Valley Fair Worlds of Fun, where this could be something that they could genuinely use, seems pretty easy. It's like looking in a thrift store and just happen to find a $13 top-of-the-line gaming computer. But thanks for watching, please like and subscribe, and ArieForce will be relocated to your home park. Goodbye!